What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode, and we are here for round number 14 of Season 5 of our Jaguar racing career, and it is time for us to pick another rival. We just beat George Russell in a rivalry. I'm going to pick him again as my rival because we can't, for some reason, pick Lando Norris, despite the fact that if you're new here, you won't know that we are tightly locked in a championship battle with Lando Norris, and in Hungary last time out, for the first time this season, I have taken the lead of the Drivers' Championship, and we're going to see what the points differential is in just a moment. I think it's about 7 or 8 points if I remember correctly. Progress history, basically non-existent at this point. We need a regulation change, and we need it now. So hopefully that comes at the end of the season, and then we hopefully will have a bit more of a mixed up grid because things have been stagnating a little bit. Yes, there we go. 8 points is the gap between myself and Lando Norris in P2, and yeah, a very difficult weekend for him in Hungary, where he got rear wing damage and was spinning about all over the place. He finished 2 laps down on me as I took the win in Hungary to get my 4th win in 7 races, which is a marked improvement from the beginning of the season, where I managed 1 third place finish, and then other than that I was mostly finishing in the bottom end of the points if I scored points at all. We were getting very unlucky at the beginning of the season, but now things seem to be turning back around in our favour. We won in Monaco, we won in Canada, we won in Britain, we won in Hungary, and we've had a couple of 4th places and a 2nd place in the midst of those results as well. So we come to Belgium now in the lead of the Drivers' Championship, and it is all about trying to maintain my championship lead if I possibly can. But it's going to be very difficult because we're going into a series of tracks which historically I've struggled at quite a lot, to be perfectly honest. They're not my strongest tracks on the F1 calendar by any stretch of the imagination. You know, Belgium, Zandvoort, Monza, all of these circuits, they don't naturally lend themselves particularly nicely to my driving style. I like tracks with lots of sort of high-speed corners. I particularly enjoy street circuits, but yeah, the ones in this stage of the calendar don't really appeal to me. I like Suzuka, I like Austin, I like Silverstone. Those are the tracks I always like doing well at, and it's going to be even more difficult this season with no Austin and no Singapore on the calendar to kind of help me along my way in the championship fight. However, we were fastest in practice just now, but the track was wet for the majority of the session, so it's not really representative of what our overall pace was. It'll be interesting to see how we fare in qualifying now, which is starting out wet, but as you can see, the track is definitely drying out and should be dry by the end of Q1 here. And indeed, you can see that, yeah, it was a 141 for myself, actually. So the track was getting wetter in actuality. I thought it was getting drier, but no, it was getting wetter. And as a result, Jack Doohan out in P20. He didn't set a lap time quickly enough, and he was eliminated alongside Joe, Magnussen, Stroll, Leclerc and Perez. So a very mixed up grid here. I'd say 4 surprise eliminations there. Meanwhile, both Williams is making it through, De Vries making it through, both Haas is making it through, Tsunoda making it through. You know, all of these guys who you might expect to be eliminated in Q1 making it through in place of quite a few people who you would expect to maybe make it through to Q3 even. So yeah, like I said, the track got wet, but then it got dry again. So we're going to be out on soft compound tyres for the remainder of the qualifying session. And we are on a used set of soft compound tyres to kick things off. It's a 139.7. We are 7,000th slower than Norris on that run. And that was on a used set, bear in mind. So God knows what we'll be capable of doing on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. You can see we would have been through in P7 even with that time. But I decided I would go again, just see what kind of time I could do. And as we exit the final corner, we're going to be improving by about 0.8 of a second as we cross the line. It's a 138.9, and that is good enough to put us in P1. So we just have to do it again now. We just have to do it again in Q3, and we will be the masters of our own destiny here. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what we are capable of doing in Q1. Lando Norris does make it through, as does George Russell. Those are my closest competitors. Knocked out in Q2, pretty much everyone you would expect. Lawson, Tsunoda, Sargent, Hulkenberg and De Vries all knocked out, having made it through. Sainz, however, knocked out in perhaps in place of Fittipaldi. You might have expected him to be knocked out. But yeah, if you look at the gap between Fittipaldi, Albon and Sainz, there was literally 13 thousandths of a second between the three of them. So it very easily could have been Albon or Fittipaldi getting knocked out instead. But it was Sainz, and now we are going to start in Q3. We're going to go for pole position here. We've been fastest in practice, we've been fastest in Q2, and now I'm going to try and be fastest here in Q3 as well. We crossed the line on a used set of soft compound tyres. It was a 1:39.3, and well, that was pretty much as hard as things got for me all weekend, because as you're about to see, as we make our way onto our second flying lap on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, my used tyre run was actually fast enough to put me on provisional pole position, and we exit the final corner. We're improving significantly. It's a 1:38.8, and of course that's going to be good enough for pole position. So yeah, very, very pleased with that, and hopefully we can have a good time on this sprint weekend and get a couple of victories.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves of our top three: Robinson, Oscar Piastri and Esteban Ocon. With qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid line up for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
Well, a bit of a surprising qualifying there. As you can see, both Alpines not only make it through to Q3, but a third and fourth. It's a bit reminiscent of Force India / Racing Point in Spa 2018, right after they got taken over. Ocon was actually third on that occasion as well. And we will see, will he have what it takes to be able to challenge us when we make our way into the race and into the sprint for the Belgian Grand Prix?
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Robinson lines up on pole position, and Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Ocon, Gasly, Norris, Russell, Fittipaldi, Hauger, Albon, Verstappen, Sainz, Liam Lawson, Tsunoda, Sargent, Hulkenberg, De Vries, Joe, Magnussen, Stroll, Doohan, Leclerc, and Sergio Perez completes our grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We will soon find out.
As we make our way down to the grid, Alex Jakes having nothing to say on this occasion. We're looking at Carlos Sainz there, starting outside the top 10 after he had a difficult qualifying, getting knocked out in place of Enzo Fittipaldi, who maybe he will have felt should have been knocked out there instead. And yeah, it's going to be 8 laps around here. I'm hoping that in that time, nobody will be able to mount a challenge on us as we go for our first sprint victory of the season.
Okay, we've got that relief of having points on the board finally, so let's keep that form up and get another top 10 finish today, please.
We're going to take things a bit risky here today. We're going to go on a set of softs, which, you know, that's not always the correct strategy in a sprint. Sometimes you want to go on the medium tyres instead. But basically everybody else has gone on the softs, so I'm hoping that this proves to be the right idea. But it will be difficult because I feel like, you know, the tyres seem to wear out a bit faster for me than they do for the AI in my experience. They generally tend to be able to find a bit more grip in the tyres than I do after a few laps, especially on the soft compound tyres. So we'll see whether this proves to be a mistake or not as we get ready to go racing for the first of 2 times here in Belgium. And we will see what we can do as the lights come on and the lights go out, and we've had a good getaway. Oscar Piastri off the line slowly there. Ocon has already jumped him. Meanwhile, Gasly's not had a great start, and Russell has managed to jump up ahead of him. But Lando Norris, having started in P5, has already fallen down the order, and that is exactly what I want to see. My closest championship rival falling, tumbling down the order. No, it's not quite that dramatic for him. But you can see behind there is a yellow flag and there is a safety car already. So my life made a little bit easier in this Belgian Grand Prix, this Belgian sprint, I should say. Because we don't have to do quite as many laps coming under pressure from the cars behind, so it will be nice to just try and bring the field home as best we can. We'll see what happened now. And, well, it's actually Lando Norris that was affected here that brought out the safety car. You can see he just got pinched between the Aston Martin and his teammate there, and that caused him to lose his entire front wing, and Lando Norris is definitely going to have to box to change that, so he will be going to the back of the field. Very disappointing outcome for Lando Norris, and well, a fantastic outcome for me, because it means on a weekend where he really needed a good result to try and get back at me in the championship, he's going to have to come through the field from last on the grid to try and make an attempt to get back into the points by the end of the race tomorrow. He can pretty much write off any chance of getting points here in the sprint as we get going once again. But yeah, maybe he'll have an opportunity to work his way through the field. 22 laps of racing tomorrow. I am sure that he will try his best to get into the points if he can, but it won't be easy for Lando Norris. And well, we're going to have a kind of a bit more of a relaxing weekend than I was expecting, maybe, because the pressure is kind of off. Although I do still want to maximise the gap that I can pull on Lando Norris in the championship, just in case the next few races are difficult. And you can see Esteban Ocon mounting a bit of a challenge up the inside there on me. We have just about managed to keep him behind for the time being as we now speed through lap 4. But yeah, he definitely looked like he was gunning for a move there, so we'll have to be careful. That was without DRS as well, so there's every chance in the world that he might be able to make a move on us when he gets the DRS. However, that's not going to happen now, because Zhou Guanyu is out of the session, and it has brought out another safety car. Can you believe it? It seems that something maybe happened to him, some kind of incident or something like that. Not quite sure exactly what it was, but we will see what it was now as we look at Zhou Guanyu. You can see he just dropped it out of that corner. I don't think he had contact with Perez there. I think that was just a natural dropping of the car, and he went into the wall as a result of it. So yeah, very disappointing for Zhou Guanyu, who you know, he didn't have the best of qualifyings anyway, but you know, still, that's the last thing you want. You never know when there might be chaos in a race that you can capitalise on, and if you're out of the race, it's impossible to do that. So now we've only got 2 laps of racing to the end. There will be no DRS from here to the end of the sprint, and that bodes very well for my chances of winning this. As long as Esteban Ocon doesn't pressure us too much on the run up the Kemmel Straight and into the chicane at the end of the Kemmel Straight, we should be very, very capable of grabbing this victory in the sprint and starting from pole position for the Grand Prix as well. I am very optimistic about our chances of grabbing a full complement of 8 points here today, and getting slightly more optimistic about our chance of maybe getting a win tomorrow. You know, I was kind of expecting that I would just start falling backwards a little bit, but that doesn't seem to be the case here from what I can tell, as we make our way through Blanchimont on the final lap now. And yeah, we've managed to actually hold on to the win on this occasion. So yeah, very happy with that one as we come out of the final chicane. It's only the sprint victory, so it'll only be 8 points, but it will be another important 8 points that I have pulled on Lando Norris to double my advantage to him in the championship. And now we, you know, job's not done yet. We've still got an entire race to happen tomorrow, which we have a chance to maybe pull as much as 25 more points on Lando Norris in the championship, and we have to take full advantage of that.
Robinson increases their championship lead. So let's review the drivers' standings. Well, that wraps up sprint. All that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then. The Belgian Grand Prix, a race the great Ayrton Senna won 6 times, and in 2019 Charles Leclerc became the first driver to take their maiden win here since a certain Michael Schumacher in 1992. One of the circuits that makes Formula One, Formula One. Welcome to the Belgian Grand Prix. Today we go racing through the Ardennes forest. 4.3 miles of long straights, fast corners and huge elevation changes. The Turn 1 hairpin at La Source is straight into Eau Rouge, eventually climbing into Raidillon. It is an opening salvo like no other. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Robinson lines up on pole position, and it's Esteban Ocon in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Russell, Albon, Verstappen, Fittipaldi, Liam Lawson, Tsunoda, Hauger, Sainz, De Vries, Sargent, Doohan, Magnussen, Perez, Hulkenberg, Norris, Leclerc, Stroll, and Zhou Guanyu. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Joined once again by former Formula One driver Anthony Davidson, and they've had a lot of on-track incidents recently that could leave them low on confidence.
Certainly confidence is an important factor, and every time you're involved in an incident, it's not just the car you damage, but that confidence as well. But all the top racing drivers were able to tune that out when the race gets underway and focus on the job at hand.
And focus on the job at hand we will have to do today, because winning has got to be the target here. Starting from pole position, we've got Esteban Ocon in what I would describe as a marginally slower Alpine behind us. This is probably our best opportunity to dominate a Formula One weekend that we're going to get all year, if I'm honest. So we have to take full advantage of this. We've got Ocon starting behind us. Yes, Piastri has had a very, very strong start to the season, and he currently sits either P3 or P4 in the championship, so he won't be a slouch. Russell, on an alternative strategy to us, could provide a bit of a threat as well. But with the two Alpines surrounding us, victory has to be the target here, and we will see whether we can do that as we get ready. We've lined up nicely on the grid, and all that I really have to do is just try and hold on to the lead of the race, and then I will be able to come home with the win. We will see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and we've had a good getaway compared to Esteban Ocon. It seems like that side of the grid is absolutely cursed today, because Esteban Ocon has had a poor start. But that said, Piastri has had a fairly poor start as well, and he finds himself already out of the podium positions as well. So Ocon has held on to P2, but George Russell has already made his way up 2 positions into P3, those soft tyres working nicely for him at the beginning of the race. And on the alternative strategy, I reckon that he will be our biggest contender here. I've told you, it's an undercut meta. There's a reason why I shifted my pit stop lap back a couple laps from where the default strategy was placing it, because I feel like in order to be successful in this year's Formula One game, you need to go for undercuts wherever you can. Everywhere you can undercut, do it. That's my advice. If you want to win Formula One races in career mode, and well, even not in career mode, even if you're doing league racing or anything like that, go for the undercut. I can't stress enough how powerful the undercut is in this game. If you're a good defensive driver, the undercut will literally win you races, and that is not an exaggeration. Going for the undercut in Hungary last time out literally won me that race. If not for that, I would have been behind Jack Doohan. Jack Doohan probably wins that race, or in fact, not even that. Probably somebody undercuts me, and then we don't win that race. And it's the same story for so many of these races I win. I win them because of this undercut meta that exists in Formula One. So when you're on the more aggressive tyre strategy, when you're on the softer tyres to start, that puts you in the best possible situation. That's why I have to go shorter on the first run when I'm on those harder step tyres. You know, George Russell on those soft compound tyres, you think he's going to stop on lap 11? No, he's stopping on lap 9, maybe lap 10 at the absolute latest, I would say. So, yeah, he will basically have an undercut on Esteban Ocon, even if Ocon's able to hold him back, which, to be fair, as we make our way onto lap 5 now, Esteban Ocon has done a good job of doing so far. But we've also done a good job of holding Esteban Ocon back, even though he's had the DRS for a couple laps already. But here on lap 5, is he that little bit closer now that he will be able to go for a move up the inside of us? He's definitely going to have a look, but he's not quite close enough, I don't think. But he pulls alongside us and actually gets ahead. He gets his front wing in front for a little bit. But we've ended up holding on to the position. Esteban Ocon can't make the move stick, and he'll have to wait till the next lap, lap 6, to see if he can go for a move on us here. It's going to be very, very difficult, but these are the conditions at which I thrive. When I'm coming under pressure from cars behind, that's the situation that I like being in more than any other, because I feel like when I have cars chasing me behind, I drive at my absolute maximum performance. But as soon as there's a car in front of me or something like that, that's when I kind of, start floundering a little bit because I'm trying to push too hard. I'm trying to overdrive the car, as some people have sort of coined it. And I end up having to back out because I'm worried I'm going to hit people and things like that. So that's been a situation which has cost me, positions in the past where I've fallen out of DRS range due to sort of overdriving the car whilst trying to catch the cars in front. But when I'm out in front, I just feel so confident and self-assured in my own driving, and I feel like I can defend anything. We've defended Esteban Ocon for the last 3 laps now. We're going to be switching our attention to the Alfa Romeo of Yuki Tsunoda this time. Obviously, Zhou Guanyu was retired from the sprint after he had a crash. This time it's going to be a mechanical failure for Tsunoda, and a very disappointing situation for him. I'm sure that he would have wanted to have tried to capitalise on the fact that he finished in the top 10 in the sprint, but unfortunately he won't be able to do that. We make our way into the pit lane now on lap 9. You can see that Russell has actually stayed out on those soft compound tyres. So this undercut is going to work absolutely beautifully for me, even if someone does come into the pits. I think somebody has come. I'm not quite sure who that is. Jack Doohan is in the pit lane, and this could be a bit of a disaster for him strategically if I've come in on the same lap. But this was always my plan. The team always knew I was planning on coming in on lap 9. So hopefully he was far enough back to not be affected by that. But yeah, nobody else I really need to worry about has boxed on this occasion. So we should hopefully come out in a bit of clear air, and we will see exactly what the gap is going to be now that we make our way around the final couple of corners. And I can see that both Ocon and Piastri and Russell, I think, have all come into the pits there. So we will see who comes out first, who comes out in front of who, and where I will shake out in the order. It seems that Russell has overtaken Ocon on track, having had no DRS for Ocon. It made the job for Russell a little bit easier. So he is now going to be in net P2, as it were. After Gasly and Albon pit, he will be in P2, and he will be the driver that is closing me down for the victory here on that faster compound of tyres as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see if he's catching me for a little bit. You can see on that lap he was about 0.5 of a second faster than me, and we will keep an eye on this delta to George Russell, because I think towards the end of this race I may have to do a little bit of defensive driving, but we will see. Somebody I won't have to defend from, as you can see, is Esteban Ocon, and that is because he has a car issue that means that he will slowly start to drift back through the field, you would imagine. Keeping an eye on the delta to Russell. Through the first sector, I've kept it fairly consistent, but it's this middle sector here that he's really gaining on me. That's the sector where tyres make all the difference, and unsurprisingly, he gained about 5 or 6 tenths on me through that middle sector. Last sector, he's a little bit faster through the bus stop chicane as well. So those are going to be the critical positions where he's going to make up time on me. So we have to try and be as consistently fast as we can through the middle sector and through the bus stop chicane. But as we make our way onto lap 17 now, you can see he's brought the gap down to just 2.5 seconds. So George Russell, within a couple of laps, I imagine, will be within that DRS range, and we will see whether George Russell is capable of making a move for the win here. I've basically been leading the race the entire time. Yes, I pitted earlier than everybody else, but in terms of who's had the net lead of the race the entire time, it's been me. I've never lost out to anyone throughout the sprint, throughout the race, and with only 5 laps left to go now, surely I'm not going to let this one slip away from me. As we make our way now onto lap 18, the gap has come down to 1.4 seconds, and George Russell is catching me very, very quickly. But as the great Murray Walker always used to say, catching is one thing, but passing is another thing entirely. So, will George Russell be able to pass me, or is it going to be that he's going to be frustrated behind me for the next 4 laps? As we make our way onto lap 19, he is within that DRS range now, but is he close enough to go for a move here on lap 19? I don't know if the answer is yes. He seems like he might just be a little bit further behind than he needs to be, and as we make our way into the chicane, you can see that George Russell definitely is not close enough to make a move on this occasion, and we have held P1. Looking on to lap 20 now, this is Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo, who is about to retire from the Grand Prix for the 2nd time this weekend. He retired from the sprint, and now he's going to be retiring from the race as well. It has been a weekend to forget for this man, but hopefully he'll be able to bounce back stronger in the next race in Zandvoort. I don't believe that Alfa Romeo have scored any points as a team this season so far, along with AlphaTauri. I think those are the only teams that have failed to do that, because Haas and Williams both have been able to. But what Zhou Guanyu's yellow flag did mean is that George Russell, you can see he jinxed to the inside for a second there, but under yellow flags he would not have been able to make that overtake, and so Zhou Guanyu has bailed me out of being overtaken by George Russell there. And now we are going to make our way onto the final lap of the Grand Prix. And if I can keep George Russell behind for this lap, then I am going to win the Belgian Grand Prix. And this is going to be a very sweet victory if I can pull it off, because this is a track that I historically have struggled at quite a bit in this career mode. You know, we've had races where we've just gone backwards and backwards through the field. George Russell not close enough to make a move. He decides to opt against going for a dive bomb there. If it was me, I absolutely would have sent it, and maybe that's the difference between myself and George Russell. Maybe that's why I'm going to win this race, and George Russell is going to have to settle for P2 unless he can overtake me in an unconventional overtaking spot. Now, we're not completely out of the woods, because sometimes the AI can get a good run on you into Blanchimont, and if he can overtake me before that position, then maybe he can still win the race. But I would say it is increasingly unlikely now that George Russell hasn't made that move. We've only got a few more corners left to go. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen has made his way into P3 because Oscar Piastri, much like Esteban Ocon, also had some sort of issue here in this race. So yeah, it was a race to forget for people who were contending for the podium, and Max Verstappen somehow has managed to wrangle his way into P3. Lando Norris, having started all the way in P19, I think is still only on the fringes of the points. So another race to forget for him. I think he's in P12 at the moment. So yeah, a really disappointing one for him. But we are going to round the final corner. George Russell won't catch us this time. We're going to win for the second time in a row, and we're going to win the Belgian Grand Prix. I am extremely happy about this victory, because now we have a massive, comfortable margin that we're leading the World Championship by. Lando Norris does get driver of the day. I don't think he'll care, because it is another pointless weekend for the Mercedes driver.
A difficult race then on one of the all-time classic circuits, but they've persevered to take the win here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Welcome then to the podium, our top three drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
What a race. Very, very comfortably led by myself. Not too much pressure. Absorbed a bit of pressure from Ocon and a teeny bit of pressure from Russell there, but generally speaking, it is very calm and controlled out in the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. One of my favourite tracks on the calendar. Typically, I don't go too well around here, so I am very, very happy that we have finally broken that trend, and we have finished on the top step of the podium here to extend our championship lead to about 40 points now. What a turn up for the books this has been.
Robinson increases their championship lead. So let's have a quick look at how the drivers' standings have changed. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I have to give it to Robinson.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
Well, as a famous singer once said, what a devastating turn of events this is for Mercedes, because not only has Lando Norris now fallen to 41 points behind me in the championship, but all of a sudden we are knocking on the door of taking the lead of the Constructors' Championship as well, only 21 points behind. If Jack Doohan can just find a little bit of form in the late stage of this championship, then maybe, just maybe, me and him will be able to come home victorious in the Constructors' Championship for the first time in our team's history in 5 years. You know, we had a 5-year plan. We wanted to be winning the Constructors' Championship by year 5, and unfortunately it just seems like I don't quite have the teammate to be able to do that. That's why next season I'm very keen on signing someone that hopefully can help us go to Constructors' glory as well. I was flirting with the idea last video, or a couple of videos ago, of signing someone like Verstappen or Leclerc or someone like that. But what do you guys think? Should I sign someone like Verstappen or Leclerc? Should I take a chance on someone who's maybe a bit more experienced but still not quite been given the opportunity to prove themselves in top tier machinery? Someone like Sonoda, perhaps? Someone like Zhou Guanyu, someone like Ocon or Gasly maybe. You know, I enjoy battling with the Alpines, and Lord knows we have done it time and time again throughout this career mode, and it was exciting to be battling with them at the front this time as opposed to you know, in the midfield as it was historically. But yeah, let me know who you think should be my teammate for next season. Maybe you think it should be somebody else entirely. Maybe you should think it would be somebody who's not on the grid anymore. If that's the case, I don't know who it would even be, because the only two Formula 2 drivers who I would argue deserve to be here are Porsche and Dragovic, and I'm sure that they will make their way into Formula 1 very, very soon, because Sainz, of course, if you've forgotten, is retiring at the end of the season, and I just get an inkling that there may be another driver retiring this season as well. You know, some of them are getting quite old now. Perez is getting on a bit, Hulkenberg is getting on a bit, Magnussen is getting on a bit, so those are some drivers who I anticipate may retire before the end of the season as well, or at least before I nip this entire career mode in the bud. We will have to wait and see what happens with those guys, unless they're planning on sticking around until they're in their 40s. That would be quite exciting, but unlikely, I would argue. In any case, next up is Zandvoort, and we have an opportunity there to try and extend our championship lead further, but it is going to be a very difficult time for us. We will see what we can do then, but that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.